U.S. airspace. If you do not land immediately, we will be forced to shoot you down. It's coming right at us! You are red and free to engage unknown. Locked and loaded. It's a hit! What did you see? Unidentified, sir. An unidentified flying object.
Welcome back, everybody, to another round of Suns and Shadows podcast. I am your host, Jeff, joined as always by co-host Kevin. This time we're going back to the 90s, and we're unfortunately going back to Fox. Yes, another one of the good ones got the axe. This one is Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin's The Visitor. You recognize their names from such flicks as Independence Day, Stargate. From around that time, they were pretty much hitting on all cylinders. And we got this wonderful little show. Kevin, I know this was your first time watching this, but when I first saw this years ago, and this is the first time I've watched it since it aired on Fox, and just watching it again, this was a lot of fun for me. And there's quite a bit I remembered and quite a bit I didn't. But I remembered when this was on air, this actually was kind of a bit of a sweet show for me to watch because they had just canceled like Space Above and Beyond the year before. And there was a bit of a gap between quality science fiction out there. Yes, there was Babylon 5, wasn't interested in it. Yes, there was Deep Space Nine, wasn't terribly interested in that either. I would eventually come around to that, but like as far as something a little more close to home, like an Alien on Earth type kind of show with a bit of science fiction thrown in, this seemed to have a really good blend to it. And just when it aired, I enjoyed the hell out of this thing a lot. And then it just ended. Kevin, you watched it. What did you think of it?
Well, I was not expecting to like it. I'll be perfectly honest up front. Like, the first few minutes, the first couple minutes, and reading the really like brief synopsis, I was kind of like, Bermuda Triangle, huh? All right, we'll see where this goes.
Well, even our buddy Steve Skeeter, he even said the same thing because we told our fans on Discord. Yes, we're on Discord, everybody. But he had asked, like, is this the show where he got kidnapped by aliens in the Bermuda Triangle? And it's like, yes and no at the same time. But he kind of figured out the show.
Yeah, like and again, you try to guess what you're about to see. Is this going to be fire in the sky? Is this going to be communion?
Yeah.
And it's a variety of all those and none of those all at the same time. This was not on my radar at all. It's not because of its quality. I was busy on Friday nights at this point. I was working, and when I wasn't working, I was either playing N64, playing GoldenEye or Mario Kart with my friends, or chasing girls. So Friday nights after the X-Files moved to Thursdays were just lost to me. And I'm sad in hindsight looking back at it because come maybe 15, 20 minutes into the pilot, I really started enjoying this show. And the further it went along, the more I was able to see why it didn't come back after its 13th episode. And again, that has nothing to do with the quality of this show. It has everything to do with Fox and their attitude about entertainment.
Or what they felt entertainment should be or should not be at the same time.
Yeah, well, for the people at home that if you haven't seen this, if you want to watch this, this is another series that is available for free on YouTube. And the neat part about it is each episode has a beginning and beginning and an exit stinger, basically, for a Fox commercial. And every Fox commercial is so like extreme and pumped and energetic, and this is going to be so badass. And then you've got this show about a guy that's kind of a pacifist, and he's trying to make the world a better place, and it's not extreme at all. So I get why.
Although I will say, sorry to interrupt you, when they do action in this show, it is pretty good. It's just there's no sense of like real danger for anything other than him getting possibly captured. He's never really in any sense of death. Poor Adam MacArthur. He's just constantly on the run. it feels a bit reminiscent to, like, say, The Prisoner or other shows like,
Say his
God, what was
name.
that Harrison Ford movie?
Oh, The Fugitive?
Yeah, The Fugitive. Yeah. I was going to say like The Fugitive, where that's kind of the plot is capturing Adam MacArthur. But when they blow something up, it's freaking awesome. They blow up a freaking barn. When they deliver the action, it delivers it very well. It's very entertaining. It's like, man, production values on this are pretty dope. Not bad considering it was like $1.5 million or so per episode.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was one of the.
Gosh.
Now, on something I saw, one of them making of somewhere out on YouTube airwaves somewhere, it mentioned like the episodes were like 1.5, 1.6. We could always be corrected on that, but that seemed to be what the price was. And for that time, that's a bit of money, but you look at that cost these days, and something like, say, She-Hulk is made for $225 million for 8 episodes.
Damn.
A budget like that for 13 episodes on The Visitor, imagine how much doper that shit would have been. Just saying.
I think so. I think it would have been epic someplace else, any place else with that same budget. And
Right.
the showrunners behind it, because these were professionals hot on the heels of doing what they're doing, and they come out with this really original idea. Like, you think you know what it's going to be. And yes, it does have certain allusions to other shows, like you said, The Prisoner, who I was thinking of was Bruce Banner or David Banner for the TV show.
Right.
Every episode you wanted to start playing that sad piano music and put your thumb out. But it was really good. And just like with last week's show, every time you thought you knew what was going to happen, it was not what you were thinking it was going to be. Like alien abduction and experiments. It was not what you think it is. It was a pleasant thing, sort of.
Right. Yeah. And this also, I got to admit, like, this was the show that got me interested in watching similar shows around that time that were not really that similar, but it'd be like a show like The Pretender.
There are pretenders among us, geniuses with the ability to become anyone they want to be. In 1963, a corporation known as the Center isolated a young pretender named Jared and exploited his genius for their research. Then one day, their pretender ran away.
Which was on NBC, which basically you're following a guy who pretty much can assume any job, any profession, incredibly smart, but he's always trying to help somebody. There's a select few shows around this time, and that continued until about like 99-ish, when most of them kind of dropped off. But there was always shows, Early Edition, The Pretender. I'm sure there more people can name other ones, but there was always these shows, hope to them, while also having a bit of a dark storyline that wasn't so dark or so crazy. But this was the one that had enough science fiction going on for me to really dive into. And if it wasn't for this show, I don't know if I would have given those other shows a try, just because of like the nature of them. Like on it took me 2 years before I even checked out The Pretender, and I really liked it. Early Edition I watched, I really liked that too. Now, like Touched by an Angel, maybe not so much. But this is also a show that inspired me to kind of keep sticking around Fox, for even though they would cancel all my favorite shows from like 95 all the way through like 2000. They had a show every year that was fantastic. They'd cancel. The following year, they'd come out with Brimstone. So it's like I couldn't really give up on Fox until they totally smashed my heart in a million pieces. But, we're going to be doing our next show is another Fox show that's a few years later and did really well and got canned as well. But, this inspired me to, okay, I'm going to broaden my horizons and see what else might interest me. And it got me reinvested in aliens in a TV show outside of X-Files, because this is about the time I was giving up on X-Files. And I didn't know how much longer I was going to stick around with that. And 2 years later, there's another alien invasion show that appears on Sci-Fi Channel called First Wave. And that's another person on the run, avoiding the government, avoiding this, that, and the other. And I felt like that carried the themes of this show a bit as well while being its own show. So in my opinion, this is a show that kind of reinvigorated my love for science fiction at a time when I was about done with it, to be honest. And there really wasn't much I could get into. So it's just how I felt. And rewatching it again, it just reminds me, like, God damn, I really like this show. Because like for as much as I forgot, I would often just sit back. I'd pay attention to the whole thing. I wouldn't be on my phone. I wouldn't be like looking around the room. Hey, what could I clean up now? Maybe I could sell some more stuff on eBay. Just being half paying attention. No, this is a show that will pull you in. The characters and the story are that good. This, like the first 5 minutes of any given episode, you might be like, oh, I know how this episode's going to go. But by minute 6, minute 7, you're like, okay, I was wrong. How are we going to end? And then it ends. And you're like, shit, that's really not what I was expecting. That's really good. And if it did end as you expected, it's because you were thinking along the lines the writers, and they would give you a couple episodes where it felt like, okay, I think I know what's going on. And then the next episode, they'd flip the switch on you, flip the script, and you would not understand exactly what's going on anymore because they'd start introducing more information backstory wise, or what's really going on with the overall story, or they do something with our poor federal agents. I like those guys. Wilcox, Van Patten, LaRue, my man.
My mama used to tell me one man's stew is another man's slop. Huh? What we got here is ingredients. A little pinch of this, a little dash of that. Now it's up to us to cook something tasty.
I liked them a lot. It was hard to call them the good guys. And I guess in a way they are.
But they weren't bad guys.
Yeah, they were not. They were not the NSA by any means.
No.
Yeah, our government, they're the bad guys. The NSA, the military with the, Colonel Vice with the chip on his shoulder. Those are the bad guys. The feds in this, they just wanted the truth as to what the NSA was covering up, who this bad guy is. Right. Is he, who the quote unquote bad guy is, who John Adam MacArthur, is he a sleeper cell agent? Because that's what they're afraid of. Like the Reds made a sleeper cell, a Manchurian candidate type person. And that was not the case. And it gets to a point where you're kind of like, all right, are they going to start to figure out that he hasn't committed any crimes at all and they're just chasing him for no reason? It doesn't really get there. And I think it's Vice in the military that make it that way. Like they bring the violence, and that's always what
every time
follows Adam. Yeah,
right. Well, because Adam MacArthur doesn't create the situations; he's always trying to alleviate, to help situations, and you never really see him get like overly violent or aggressive towards like anybody. It's usually in self-defense, or he's trying to actually help or save somebody, and he's got the kind of physical presence. John Corbett's fantastic, fresh off of Northern Exposure. Here he is in a little bit more of an action-y show that doesn't involve too much action for him. He doesn't shoot anybody. He doesn't voodoo chop or kung fu chop or do any sort of crazy fights. But you could believe, like, he might have been military. It might have been a bit more old school, but he could probably handle himself. We just never really got to see that a whole lot. He actually had to use his brain to get out of situations, which is a core element that's missing from a lot of shows and movies these days, is using your brain to get out of a problem instead of straight up trying to beat the crap out of something or shoot the hell out of it, just to find a solution, an easy solution.
Well, see, that's
a thing that's missing these days, and this show had it in spades.
And that's why I think it was cut. Fox does not like shows that make you think or that require you to think. And I said that last week last episode where I asked, are American audiences just not smart enough to get shows like this to where it's going to maintain sustainability, or do they not have the attention span for it? Are they not patient enough? Do you need to see the explosions? I don't know what people want exactly, but it wasn't necessarily this. This, I think, was too ahead of its time. and it had the misfortune of being in the more or less same universe as X-Files.
Yeah, it would have been interesting if there had been like a crossover at some point. That would have been pretty interesting, just to see like Mulder running across him and being like, okay, you're one of the good guys, be on your way, sort of thing, steps in, whatever. But Chris Carter was just so far into his own universe that these guys doing a show that was kind of the lighter version of X-Files probably was at some sort of odds, kind of like the yin and the yang, and it just didn't fit quite right. And that's not a knock on either show. It's just, if it doesn't pair up well, then why are you putting The Visitor with Millennium then on a Friday night? That makes like no sense, because you're going from a show like The Visitor, which has charm, heart, and spirit to it, into something where it's pretty dark and nihilistic at times.
Yeah, right.
Like Millennium is not a kiddie cozy show to pair up with this. This is where I would argue like Fox may have been a good home for this show, but this night was not a good night for this show. Fridays are death nails, even for the best shows. That's why X-Files got moved off of Fridays. That's why Millennium, like, it might have done well. It would have done better another night. That's clear to anybody who's been watching TV for as long as like we have. Friday nights are not the best nights for TV. That's where they put all of these really good shows that just languished. Like the following year, Brimstone, initially intended to be on Tuesdays. They bumped it to Friday like the week or two before it was supposed to debut. And people who had tuned in Tuesday to look for that wasn't there. So when they did tune in on Friday, the ratings were good. However, they were not as good as they could have been. When you put this shit on Fridays, that's not a big vote of confidence. I don't care if they said, "Oh, it's going up with Millennium. This is gonna do just fine." Clearly, you have no understanding on how Fridays work. You want Fridays to be a big night, you need to move X-Files back over there with Millennium.
Yeah, because
it was not a good combo. And I would have put this show, as hard as it would be to say this, I would have put this on a Sunday night after like The Simpsons.
That's a big act to follow. And I know at the time we only had an hour of animation domination at the time.
Yeah, King of the Hill and Simpsons.
Yeah, because In Living Color was already over at that point. But anyway, I just zero pointed for a second on this with the day and the times. I think you're right. The pacing of it, where it's not explosive, it's hopeful, it makes you think, it's actual science that they're talking about. And that's one of the things worth noting. Right. It's not science fiction necessarily. I mean, yes, it is, but they were using actual physics and theoretical sciences at the time. Kind of like the same way that John Carpenter did in The Prince of Darkness.
Yes.
I don't remember what they were talking about. The old man that was where they blew up the barn, basically. And
the anti-gravity.
Yes, the anti-gravity. That wasn't what he was exactly making. It was cold fusion, but it was still really cool.
Right. And, Adam was totally willing to help him, but also advised him, there's a better use for this. Like, what you're making isn't going to work, but what you're doing could work in this other aspect. It could help with, increasing food and, saving the world from hunger. You could do more good with this than trying to do what you're currently doing. Just, you have to change directions. Like, you got the right science, but you just got to go in a different direction there, buddy. And unfortunately, Vice had other thoughts and decided to blow the fuck out of that barn, unfortunately. And what was left of the anti-gravity? Well, that at least gave Adam a nice little escape route.
That was pretty awesome.
I remember when I saw that the first time on TV, I'm like, what the fuck just happened? Because it's really cool, because the FBI is holding the handcuffs, and then Vice shows up in his Santa outfit. And he's like, again, you guys? It's like, oh god, this is like a reverse A-Team episode.
And opening up the fusion, deuces, disappears. It was hysterical. It was absolutely hysterical. I loved that part.
Yeah, I liked a lot of the unintentional humor.
Yes, and there was a lot of that, especially with the elderly couple, the friends that were supposed to be super Mensa.
Right.
They were pretty damn funny.
Yeah.
That episode where they blow up the barn, I did mark in my notes, this is where they ran out of the budget, because every other explosion that they did in the show was like amazing. This was more like, it looked like they were blowing powder as smoke out the top of the barn, out the door of the barn, and then just had some amazing sound foley's. The barn probably should have been blown up.
Yeah, they might have been low on budget, but they might have also had to consider, like, hey, we got some special effects heavy episodes coming up here very quickly. We might want to kind of dial it back a tinge, or they couldn't legitimately blow up the barn and they had to just make it look like they were blowing up a barn.
Yes, and that's commonly what happens in situations like that.
Yeah.
Dino De Laurentiis would get pissed. I think it was Red Dragon, where they were going to blow up the Dollarhide home, and that was somebody else's house that was living there, and they wanted to blow it up, which they do in the film. And the people are like, "No, you're not blowing up our house." And De Laurentiis lost his shit. Like, well, we're paying you. Why not?
Oh my god.
So
if they really wanted to blow up the barn, they should go Tremors 2 Aftershocks and just completely level the fucking place.
It's gonna be big! Is it gonna be today?
But they had a lot of fun military explosions in this, and that was neat to see. That was par for Friday night, but the lack of actual like death was not good for Fox's image, which sounds horrible for them. But it was nice in this. You didn't need people killing each other, neck snappings, or ninjutsu stealth takedowns, whatever. This had a lot more, like you said, hope to it. There was always something would go wrong with Adam's plan to make the world a better place, or to help somebody reach their better goal, or in a particular example, to stop a satellite from going up in the air. He had to stop
Right.
to help somebody else. And like, well, the satellite's going, well, we'll figure it out later. You were more important at the time. Not what you would expect out of the hero of a TV show like this. He was such a better person than that.
Yeah, he'd always kind of pivot if he needed to. And ultimately, later on, he would figure something out. Or if he couldn't stop it and it still occurred, we would find out like the satellite just did not have any effect on the alien ship to begin with, because it had the angry Michael showing up. And that was pretty fun because for the version we were watching on YouTube, they actually had the previews for the following episode, and it would continually escalate for what the show was going to be doing next. And it'd be like, and next week we make contact. And then the following week, and now we see their real form. And it was just really funny. Like the YouTube version, hey, that's going to be in the link below, because you can't find digital version anywhere to see this otherwise. But you'll see like the bumpers at the beginning, welcome to Fox Friday nights. And then at the end, they talk about like The Simpsons, and next week on The Visitor, this is what happens. And it's pretty interesting to check that out.
The Halloween episode was hysterical, and that's where I put my finger on it, like, aha.
Teufelnacht.
Yeah, I remember that night too. I remember watching, not so much this, but I remember those commercials. And I think this was the episode that had the Millennium intro with, God, I can't even think of Lance Henriksen's name. Had Lance Henriksen come up from that trap door and was talking about how scary the show was and how spooky Halloween was. And then you have a very non-spooky episode of this. But the spookiness that they brought to it, however, in its favor, is they got John Kisser to be a radio DJ who is playing an annual War of the Worlds episode, or War of the Worlds production for Halloween. And he sees this alien ship land right next to the radio station. And he starts having this psychotic break where they're like, he thinks they're all around him. and he's surrounded. He's trying to barricade himself inside, like the zombie apocalypse is going to happen. And he's
It's the
reporting.
War of the Worlds, Kevin.
Yeah. And as it turns out, the alien wasn't an alien. It was Adam Baldwin, who went in the other direction altogether. So it's like,
And Adam Baldwin was fan-fucking-tastic in this show. Just got to say that.
you know, I think he had a better range in this than he did in Firefly. He played more people. Jane was very one-dimensional. Michael Orion and Joe were two very separate people, and he did great at both.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Adam, and he's also one of the first of many like Stargate SG-1 crossovers, even though this is a little bit before. Like him and Tony Amendola were both on Stargate SG-1, so it's kind of fun to watch some of these characters be on other like Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich properties before they ever went over to Stargate. But like even in Stargate, Adam did fine. Firefly, like you said, a little one-dimensional, but you still fell in love with the character because of how quirky he was. And, you know, just in this show, it's just nice to see him go from like Terminator mode to how you doing, reminiscing with Vice because they had a past together, and then to him subsequently dying, and then being basically they do a body swap episode or body swap part of that episode, and Joe becomes it's the next episode, and then Joe takes his body, goes back to his wife, who's part of the quote unquote colony of humans that is out there. And so the show's continually evolving, but like Adam Baldwin, he was able to show a definite range, like you said, and it added another layer of depth to the show, along with an extra layer of depth to that particular character, because then that guy could keep coming back. And I really liked that character that Adam was playing in the end.
I did too. Joe was a lot of fun. I can't remember the original actor's name. I always love seeing him in any time he shows up in a TV show or a movie.
Right.
Because he's always so sincere, and Adam was able to mimic that character extremely well.
Yes.
And I liked Joe. Like, Joe was so upfront and accepting of the fact that he was crazy, I think, after 8 years.
Right.
It was cute to watch his psychotic break to go back to being rational, that he wasn't crazy, that he really was rational the whole time.
And his wife really was abducted by aliens, and he did not kill her, even though her sister swears to freaking God that he killed her. At least she didn't come back at the end and almost ruin everything. I was like, please don't do that trope where she shows up in the last second and almost screws everything up for everybody.
I thought she was going to shoot him in the heart or something like that when he exited the asylum.
Right.
Because you see movies like that, and that's where you figure that's going to go. But again, this isn't that type of show. We don't actually see anybody die, I don't think, until like episode 8, 9. And that's where
something like that, yeah.
Michael kills Charlie's roommate. Or somebody's roommate, which Michael wasn't the bad guy, or wasn't supposed to be a bad guy, I don't think, except for he did actually murder this lady for no reason. I don't know if there was an actual reason for that.
He just wanted her car.
He could have taken it anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those. Are they just trying to show that he's capable of some very devious deeds? Because he also then kills Adam's wife, or his original wife, later on by taking away the life she had just been given back.
Oh.
And Adam's reasoning is, I'm putting things back to the way they were. I have to keep fixing what you're doing here to make sure that things remain unchanged, because the elders would not like that. And that's when you first get to know a little bit more about elders. There's a structure beyond here that we're learning just sprinkles about.
Yeah.
And it's pretty interesting that the elders are basically the aliens that have abducted humans. They've stopped experimenting on them, but they've kept a select few in the form of a colony to ensure humanity continues to live on. But they've also been a little bit brainwashed into thinking we are the chosen ones. We are the only ones who should be living. If Earth wants to kill itself, let them be. If they can figure it out on their own and they survive, let it be. We have nothing to do with this anymore. And Adam's just trying to, ensure humanity has a chance to succeed and thrive and survive. And Michael's character is just like, fuck them, let them figure it out on their own. This isn't our problem. We're somewhere else. We're carrying on, with our abilities that have been unlocked, because they basically have accessed different portions of their brain so they can know how to heal. They have all this extra knowledge. They know how to do certain things. And even Adam tells many humans, you have the capability of doing this yourself. You just haven't learned how to do it. And I don't know. I think that's a really interesting concept. And just the fact that you got two different groups of humanity just kind of not on the same side, really. And not just the military, but like on an intergalactic level. And we never really meet the elders. But in the end, the elders have a bigger plan going on. And that really plays into the ending very well. And it really sets the show on a path on, if they had gotten like the back 9 episodes or even another season renewal or both, I think they would have had a chance to really flesh out a bit more of the elders and what his now mission would be and what Vice would be doing. And I think things could have been really interesting after that. It felt like the show was evolving as we were watching it.
Yes.
And to your point earlier of like, do people just not have the patience for this? Are they not interested? What is it? Part of it is it's hard to get attached to shows when they only last so long. So you only get 13 episodes to even give a shit about anything. We've already covered Harshram from Chris Carter. 8 episodes. It lasted all of 2 episodes with decent ratings and then it tanked. But people knew it was going to get canceled. Same thing happened with Firefly later. We could go down the list of shows that if you don't click like in a certain way, like almost immediately, like you need to hit X-Files season 3 ratings numbers before, anything happens. That should tell you got to get through a season or 2 just so you get your footing under you with your identity. This is one of those rare shows that had an identity immediately. They knew what they were doing. They knew where they were going. And later on, I'll just do it now. We tagged Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich on Twitter. And I asked them, if you even remember, did you even have a plan going forward? And Dean replied, yes, we had a plan. I almost felt like he was a little disappointed that they never got to go forward with the show, but I didn't want to bug him too bad about like, so what were you going to do? It would be interesting because I don't know if they have any hopes for the show to return or not in the future or not, but it's been a long time. We never even got a DVD for this show. It's heartbreaking. This is that period of time where shows they didn't go to home video. It would be another like 3 or 4 years. Like, I'm still waiting for my Brimstone DVD set. This didn't get a set. VR5 didn't get a DVD set. I mean, I could go down a list of other shows, but I'd love to know where they were going to go with that show.
I do too, because it was very broad and open.
Yeah.
They succeeded with the 3-way angles of good guy, bad guy, intermediate bad guy, good guy, whatever the fuck. They did a better job at that in this show than they did at the end of, say, like War of the Worlds, which was
the other show that we did previously about over a year or so ago.
Yeah, which John Kisser's reading War of the Worlds was way better than that show. But
yeah,
it's the Crypt Keeper. You can't get much better than that. I
love the Crypt Keeper, by the way.
I just totally 0-pointed myself with that one. Aliens, Halloween, no.
War of the Worlds.
Oh, they succeeded at having the 3 different factions.
Fighting each other, trying to figure out what each other's doing up to. Because even like with Colonel Vice, we we understood they were trying to save the planet, prevent catastrophe from happening, but they seemed to be very overly aggressive. The FBI just seemed to be trying to figure out what the hell was even going on to begin with.
Well, see, Vice's thing, he got paraphrased in a quote, and I don't remember exactly which episode it was. He says 2 + 2 = Armageddon.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, okay, so Adam came from a spaceship, spaceships go boom, okay, everything's going to explode now. They're coming to kill us. Like, he just immediately has suspicion, knows that the aliens are monsters coming to abduct or kill, eat everybody, whatever. And he's just on total alert mode from the get-go.
Red alert mode.
Yeah. And then you find out much later on, especially once Michael O'Ryan shows up, that he has a very personal vendetta against the aliens for taking his friends.
Right. And then he ends up hearing, like, they're doing fine, everything's fine, don't worry about it, they all miss you, but we're all happy, we're good. And Vice just ain't having it. He's like, you're not Michael, I don't believe you, shoots him dead. It's like, okay, there's our first shooting death in this show.
Yeah. And the fuck thing is Michael shot him in the arm. Like, it was an intentional flesh wound to make him get out of the way.
It's like, dumbass, just sit down, don't get up. Put your gun down. You're playing with toys.
Kinda, and you shot your friend that you've been trying to avenge for like 30, 40 years twice in the chest.
Right. And then Adam just completely flips out and he's trying to, like, save Michael. And we're all, us as the audience, we're like, what the hell is going on here? Like, this makes absolutely no sense. And just Adam, he's unable to save him. And he has to just get the hell out of facility because Vice wants to freaking kill him dead too. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah. And Vice has no stop. If his body's capable, he's still trying to kill shit.
And if he's slowing down, he's going to do something about it just to keep going, like he did with that one vial to try and keep the body going as he was getting a fever.
Yeah, the alien juice that revived him and revitalized him somehow, which was pretty fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Looked like it hurt like hell. And I don't know what that was. I remember Adam was making that when he was swapping the souls. So I don't know if that was like soul juice, alien juice.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure of that. I wonder if that was going to play another appearance later on or get an explanation to it at another time.
Yeah.
They only had so much time to try and get, like, the story going. Like, any other sort of loose ends it's normal with almost all of the shows that only went like 13 episodes. Like, there's only so much you could do at that point. You'll just get to other things later if your show continues. It's just the way out. It's just how it goes.
Yeah, this looked like it was set up to where there was only really one loose end, and that was what's John's or Adam's new mission. Otherwise, they closed everything up. Not nicely, but everything was closed up.
As well as they could because of where 13 episodes could take them.
But it was also within the realms of being real. Like, the feds all got fired or disavowed, reassigned
to Alaska. Poor Agent Johnson from Die Hard. No!
I'm Agent Johnson. This is Special Agent Johnson.
I was laughing the episode where they had Dr. Proctor that had the two rocks that turned into the tracker, where his girlfriend was pissed at him because he got drafted and sent to Nam. Or no, I'm sorry, he was not drafted. He was already working for the military, and he got sent to Nam to keep him quiet, like basically, hopefully he gets killed. And all I could think of was Agent Johnson going, "I was in elementary school, you dick."
Or even just, I was in elementary school.
Some
sort of like fun reference, but at least they kept him in the FBI because he was FBI in Die Hard as well.
Yeah. And he is fantastic. I always love seeing him show up. It's like,
it was nice to see him actually have a role beyond just that FBI Johnson guy.
Yeah.
in Die Hard. He actually had some good dialogue, good character development. It was wild to actually see like him and like LaRue and Van Patten they really gelled as a trio together. I really liked them. It's one of those weird shows where you like characters and you also don't like characters. And like some of the characters you don't like, you come around on, and some that are so you don't like them a whole lot, but every once in a while you get a little bit of humanity out of them. And it's like, God damn it, I can't quite hate that guy all the fucking way. God damn it, make me hate somebody, please.
See, that's LaRue for me. Like, you want to hate the Texan or the Southerner because they're Southern. Sorry,
Southerner.
Southerners. But he shits on Van Patten so well. They're just kind of like, fuck, I love him. He's funny.
I would be curious if there was any ad-libbing going on. I think that would have been seriously funny, or if they kept trying to crack each other up and, if I don't make you laugh, maybe they'll keep the scene in or something.
Something, but where he tells him, I've got a 6-year-old that's less gullible than you. I lost my shit. Because poor Van Patten, he buys into the cult. He buys into Adam's bullshit. Well, it's not bullshit, but he's the most receptive person on the show.
And that's one of the things I really like about him, because Adam saw that almost immediately. And that's why when he got captured and he actually started talking to Van Patten had the same question we as the audience had. Why are all of a sudden you now talking to him? And Adam basically told him, it's because I think you're the only one who would actually be listening to what I have to say. And he's got that look of, what the hell are you talking about?
Thank
but
you.
We've had these like little sprinkles through previous episodes of Patton feels like low key, he's going to be an important character at some point, not just this bumbling FBI guy. He might end up just throwing this out there for a little fan theory is, okay, now he's been let go from the FBI. He's now free to join with Adam MacArthur and help him on his journey. I would think that he would be the next person to work with him. Maybe not every episode or anything like that, but he would kind of be a foundation that Adam could go to him and he's not going to rat him out, and he'll bring him along because he's open to this information and this world, and he sees what Adam's doing. There's a mutual respect there. And I feel like that was developing with the other guys. So if there was going to be a potential problem in the future, I think Adam would ultimately have these 3 former feds on his side to avert whatever crisis might be happening in the future. Just a theory for me.
Sure.
But I think Van Patten was going to be the first one up to work with him.
Yes. Yeah. Other than Agent Lawson, who I think she was only in 1, maybe 2 episodes. Anytime someone saw Adam perform a miracle, for lack of a better term, they would eventually lighten up. Lawson lightened up really fast. Wilcox took a while.
Yeah, I think he needed to be more affirmed of, okay, I see what he's doing, but we still have to try and catch him to figure out what the hell's really going on. Then when they finally catch him, after that, they seem to be questioning more of, who the hell are we working for? What the hell is going on around here? All these leaks, Vice keeps getting tipped off. Literally, what the fuck is going on? And then just before they get fired, they kind of figure out what the hell is really going on. And it's their boss who's working with Vice. It's like, oh shit, where does this go? This is how you introduce a conspiracy without making it the full premise of the show. That's what I really appreciated out of this, as opposed to something like X-Files where everything is always a conspiracy.
Where there was 2 or 3 deep throats. Well, there was deep throat. There was
4 or
X.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I mean, they made an illusion that this was related to X-Files. If they didn't come up with the results, they were going to send this case down to the 2 clowns down in the basement.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like it made me giggle. I'm like, oh, okay, this is part of an X-Files thing. And I expected to see maybe Cancer Man show up or Skinner. And fortunately,
would have been dope.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't happen. Cancer Man, I think, probably would have been the bigger pop for me than Skinner. without
Just have him just walking in the background, smoking a cigarette, throwing it, and just keep on walking. Doesn't have to say a word. Just a nice visual walk by as he just looks over and just keep on walking.
Yeah, or something to Vice, some swerve, because Vice had a lot of information, but I don't think he was the top of his food chain.
No, he was their, he was basically their pit bull who was going to get the job done, whatever needed to happen, because he would frequently get yelled at. This is supposed to be covert. Nothing you're doing is covert. What the hell are you doing? You're blowing shit up. You're going on national media with all of this Waco coverage that you're doing. Stop it.
Oh, that fucking gunfight with the cult was fantastic.
Oh, yeah. That's the episode that Master Braytek, you Stargate SG-1's fans, that's the one that Master Braytek was in, and he was the leader of the cult. So there's a sprinkle for you.
Ah, okay. I did not know that. They did a really good job with that episode as far as making it just like the Heaven's Gate cult. And then the branch
without making it the Heaven's Gate cult.
Well, yeah, because that had just happened, I think, in 95 or 96. Jonestown was like 15 years prior, 20 years prior.
Yeah.
And then Waco, I think, was also 95. Or was that 93? Anyway,
that I don't remember. Yeah.
They kind of turned all three of those situations into this. And it was really well done because it wasn't so blatant where you just kind of eye rolled. They did a good job of making it seem like that the cult was full of shit because they wanted to get waivers from every person that signed up. Oh, sign away all your life savings to us. It's in case anything happens to you. We'll take care of you. But then the guy was really thinking that there was aliens that were going to come and land, and so he was in it for the money, but he also believed his own bullshit, which was interesting.
Yeah. No, I was just going to ask you, did you have any favorite episodes in this?
Oh God, favorite episodes?
Yeah. And this isn't really necessarily like a 6-pack, because I'll tell you right now, I ain't picking 6 out of this. I liked all of them.
Oh, you son of a gun. I was waiting for it tonight, too. And the reason why I was waiting
that's
for it.
I challenge you. 6-pack challenge.
There is so much continuity in these 13 episodes that it's almost impossible to pick 6 that tell the exact story.
Then just pick your 6th favorite.
Yeah, there are very far and few between episodes that was filler. I think maybe there's two episodes where I'm like, this sucks. This is filler. And when I say it sucks, it's not that the episode was bad. It just wasn't as consistent with the story.
It was more of a bottle episode. Like anything that would tie into anything was just very minor, very low significance.
Yeah. Gosh, I want to say the episode with Joe, the soul swapping episode. Just okay. I liked the sweetness to it. I liked the, yes, I want to help you, but it also benefits the entire earth if you go back so they don't blow everybody up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I kind of dug that episode. But yeah, I've got a 6-pack, but it was really hard to choose. It was hard to choose.
Well, what do you got?
What do I got? Let's see here. I got it written down because I can't remember the names of the episodes. So I started with the pilot. Everything usually starts with the pilot. We get introduced to Adam. He flies in from the ship and then blows it up. The NSA and the FBI are automatically on him, and that sets off the entire show to go from there. And we find out towards the end that Adam has a plan. He is human. He's not from space. He's back to Earth. He has a plan to stop humanity from destroying itself. Chaos math is a thing in outer space, and they have an equation that shows that humanity was going to destroy itself. And then I skipped ahead from the pilot to episode 3, The Devil's Rainbow. That's where we started to see the details of Adam's past and his family. We get introduced to Constance, his wife, his son, Jason. And then we find out at the end of the episode, the girl that really likes him a lot is his granddaughter, Charlene, or Charlie. And we see the alien tech that he blows up or allows Vice to blow up his life's legacy, his wife's legacy, the bar that she left to the kids and the grandkids. He blows that up with this energy source, and Adam just lets it happen because it was the easiest way to get rid of the energy source. And after that, I skip way ahead to episode 8, Reunion. That's where Adam visits Constance and makes his peace, saying goodbye to her, and realizes that he's saying goodbye to her from his youth and her youth. She has a new man in her life, and he wants to marry her before she dies. And Adam's really okay with that. And I'd cracked a joke, been like, oh, they're polygamy pals. And it was really sad because you see him making peace. He finally gets that moment of closure. And then he hands that life from himself to her, to Henry, as a gift to him, saying, I give this to you. And then as soon as that happens, Michael walks in and takes that energy away from her, and you see her start to slip back into catatonic and then death. And that was just so hard to watch. And you see Charlie come back from that, point out that Adam, or she starts to understand Adam is her grandfather, I think. And her grandmother dies. After that, I go to episode 9 as Caged. We see Vice's past. He sees, or we see all of his friends, including Michael, get abducted. We find out that there's the colony on another planet. We see Adam get captured by LaRue, and Vice kills Orion. Next, I went to episode 10, Going Home. We're introduced to Joe. We see the soul swapping. We find out Joe has a wife and a kid on the planet, so that's his extra oomphs to go. And again, we see the wife later on, and we find out that the FBI director is the NSA mole, which is really shitty. And I closed it out with not the finale. I closed it out with episode 12, The Chain. That's where the finale for most of the supporting cast happens. The FBI gets disavowed, Mother disappears, Vice gets fucked up, and you see finally at the very end there of that episode, the psychic that Adam's helping tells him, you are going to find your son. He's okay, and you're going to find him. And that was kind of the end of Adam's excursion for me. The next episode was a clip show. And there was very little to do with the story itself, except for he goes on trial by his peers from the colony. Otherwise, it was just a clip show, a retelling of what happened previously, so you could see what's going to happen in the next back 9 episodes that we never got.
Okay.
So I was really curious, what would you have picked? Would you have included that last episode or no?
I would actually, largely because of how it ends, like the last 2 minutes, because they say that elders have arrived. They found out that we're putting you on trial, and they've made the decision for us. So we don't get to decide what happens with you. And apparently the elders decided, send him back to Earth. And he tells Vice, your mission may be done, but mine is only beginning. And I didn't realize that my mission was part of a bigger picture that I didn't even know about.
There's a bigger plan. Even I didn't know about it. My mission's not over. But yours is.
And so that kind of makes you wonder, okay, what the hell's going on with the aliens? They want him back there? Are they thinking like he can change the course of what's going on? Like, are they able to see further down the road and notice that what he's doing is altering the timeline and making things better for them, giving them a better chance at survival? Or what potentially could be going on here? So while it ends with a nice degree of resolution, it also opens up the possibility of this is about to get bigger, and it might also get a little hairy at times, because it really opens up the scale of what could be happening next. And it also would then give Vice some sort of structure as to what he's going to do next. He might be told his mission's over with by Adam, but will he accept that? Or is he going to do something else along these lines as well? Is he going to consult? What's he going to do? So that leaves two characters that what's going to happen with them now going forward? Because it ends with basically Adam walking along the beach as he's trying to figure out what he's supposed to do next.
Yeah.
Which I think is very bittersweet, but also feels fitting for ending it without ending it on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, because it wasn't that. I mean, it left you wanting to see more, but it wasn't, you miss something if you don't see what's going to happen next.
Right.
Yeah. So
that's why I would say to include the trial episode. It's funny. When I saw the episode title for this and how it played out, I'm like, I know another show that used the trial as a title episode. It was a clip show, but it also served as a very good point of exposition for a few things, which is a show called First Wave. Anybody who's ever seen that show and they know that episode I'm talking about, you would know what I'm talking about with that. And it's very, very similar. It's just they did it a little differently. But clip shows of me, I usually don't like them. This was fine. I just wish there was a bit more of a narrative story going in between rather than just, oh, hey, this happened this one time. And then we go to that for like 3 minutes. Oh, and then this happened this one time. And then we relive that for 3 minutes. I would have liked it if they were serving it as like actual evidence and pulling it out of his mind instead of, and then this happened. Oh, and then we could just go right to it.
Kinda like for as advanced as they got to be and for as unlocked as their minds became, they were very small-minded still. At least Michael's brother couldn't see what had happened to his brother. And then even after he was explained what had happened to his brother, that Vice did it, he still blamed Adam for it.
Right. Well, and that would bring up the one question I would have is they're very good at understanding truth, apparently. Couldn't you do some sort of like mind read, look into his eyes, or, take his hand and just feel like what happened and relive that experience? Could you not do something potentially like that? I'm not talking Vulcan mind meld, but they clearly had some sort of sensory input between each other to know if one's freaking lying or not.
Yeah.
And so I'd be curious to know like why they didn't try something like that almost immediately, or if just his sheer act of leaving the colony was enough for them to be, we got to figure out what to do with you because the elders are going to find out what's going on and we need to figure this out. So it's just a little piece of maybe they could have done something along those lines, maybe not, but they never did. And it's just unfortunate, but hey, it's still a very good episode. I liked it. I usually don't like clip episodes. Most of the time you'll hear me say, I hate clip shows.
I did not hate this, but I was kind of put off by it a little bit. That's was my ultimate decision of going with episode 12 instead of 13.
Yeah, usually clip shows are used as kind of a good way to like save money. I'm unsure like what was happening production wise, if they had finished production before they knew they were getting canceled or whatnot, or if they found out as they were starting episode 13, shit, we got like 3 days. Let's do all this stuff on set with the colony and in the hospital, and then let's see what we can cobble together for fleshing out the episode as best as we can. So I'd be kind of curious about that. Whether we ever find out about that, that's okay. It's been years. It's all good. Just I wouldn't be surprised if something was going on that forced them to have to do a clip show. But at this time, every show was doing clips for at least one episode just to give everybody a bit of a break and a reprieve before getting into the next slew of episodes or the next season. And with that said, I'll do this quick little six-pack here. You already covered premises of episodes, but of course I would start with the pilot. Can't really go wrong with that. I just really liked how John Corbett was rocking a beard. I thought that was pretty cool, seeing how he was from Northern Exposure. Just, it worked for me. And then he shaved it for the rest of the series, which was too bad. He could have rocked that beard the rest of the time. But pilot episode's fantastic. I really like the special effects. The CGI is dated, but back then, this stuff was pretty good for what we were seeing on the television screen. And I would then go into the next episode, Fear of Flying, because that gives you more of an idea of what's going on with the FBI versus the NSA, with Colonel Weiss being a bit of a wild card. You also get like the disenfranchised scientist and Dr. Faraday, and you see what Adam's ultimately doing. And he's starting his journey to try and assist and bring, people who are off the path that could potentially help the future and help save the world, to get them pointed in the right direction and back on a path that's better for them and better for humanity as a whole. So it kind of gave you the feeling of what Adam was actually like going to be doing from episode to episode. And it also had a fun little Easter egg in it where they talked about like the disc being sent off to, one of the kid, that they helped rescue him at the beginning of the first episode. And then the second episode, he mails off a disc and they're supposed to mail it off to Adam. And the FBI tracks it down and they end up finding out he sent a video game to his friend in a completely different state. And the poor kid, he just offers up his hands to be handcuffed. He's like, "It's the Super Mario game we pirated." And then the FBI is just like, "Oh, fuck, this is not what we're here for." And then you end up seeing in the next scene that the kid went all the way to where Adam was just to hand him the disc in person and said, "The feds are following us pretty closely. I didn't trust just dropping this in the mail, so I figured I'd just bring it." I'm like, thank you for being smart. So I appreciated the detail work there.
There's a lot of illegally obtained information in this series.
Yeah, especially as Adam learned how to do a computer after reading a manual in like 5 seconds.
Yes, but
then he became a pro hacker.
Yeah, with a floppy disk.
Yeah, and change your password, ABCD1234 is not a valid password.
I mean, don't you need like a password or something so we know it's you?
Yeah, we need a password.
Oh, you want a password? How about axe murder?
I prefer what an idiot puts on their luggage. 1, 2,
and what
3,
is that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
God, that's horrible.
That's the same thing that's on my luggage.
God damn. Now I have to change all my passwords. Thanks, Kevin.
It's from Spaceballs. Anyway, go ahead.
I know. I would actually go into episode number 4, the Dreams episode, where he had the signal getting, because the aliens were sending a signal through space to Earth, and ultimately we would find out it is Michael sending the signal, basically telling him his time is up and he is on his way to go grab Adam for being on the planet. And everybody's misunderstanding the signal, and we find out how much, the poor scientist knows as he ends up in a car accident. And it's a bit of a trippy episode, but I like the construction of it and how we're finding out a little bit more about the aliens, how much we really know on Earth, and how much the poor scientist did not tell his wife, because they kept coming back, even though after he was in a car accident, they kept going back into her house, and she's trying to tell everybody to leave her the fuck alone.
They took that computer without asking. They entered without fucking warrants. Just saying.
Yep. And ultimately, they shot a rocket ship into space with a nuclear-powered laser beam. And so I really like that. Then I would skirt on over to episode 7, Teufelnacht, which is where we finally meet Adam as he's going on a basic beat-em-up spree, and he gets knocked out in the very end, but not dead.
Oh.
And I really like it because it's got John Corbett in it, and it's the Halloween episode. I really like the comparisons and the parallels to War of the Worlds, and what everybody's thinking is going to happen with these aliens and what's going on, and how it really doesn't end up happening. And then I'm going to go right on into Caged. Kevin went into that. That's a fantastic episode where basically Adam is captured, thrown in jail, and chaos ensues, and Vice shoots his buddy Michael. And I wrote down, Michael got fucked in this episode.
He always had a big heart.
Yeah. And then I would wrap it up with episode number 13, The Trial. I like it because it gives you a sense of an ending and that there's a bigger plan going on. And unfortunately, they eliminated the mother position. And I wrote, "Oh, you fucks, you fired mother."
I think she was worse than fired. That sucks.
Yeah, they were clearing out that desk like pros. And the guy who was clearing out the desk and answered the phone certainly seemed like another nasty asshole we were going to have to deal with coming up in future episodes if we were to get more. So they're definitely setting up the next stage of baddies that we were going to have to contend with. And I know it's a clip show episode. I would agree with you on the chain being a very solid way to end the series if they could have. But having episode 13, it ends with a lot of hope for humanity and that the elders are willing to let Adam continue on his path and his mission to see what he can do to try and save Earth. Because they do mention in this episode that many civilizations have been influenced by the elders, the aliens, and this might be the one time that they're breaking their, whatever it is, their prime directive to allow the Earth a chance to succeed. So I really felt like it gave a good sense of hope and humanity for the show. And that was kind of the core of this show, was its hope for humanity and that things, you get on the right path and, things can be all right depending on how you want to handle it. And just such a sweet spot and charm to this show that the messages of hope and humanity in here they drive the show forward. The acting is fantastic and the characters are well defined and well developed, and they continue to develop throughout the show. Even at the very end, you can't hate Vice all the way through and through. He was just trying to do what he thought was best, as misguided as it was. It's like a Batman villain. There's something there. You could pull humanity back out of him. Maybe. I mean, he dressed up as Santa and he was letting kids sit on his lap and having a good time in a previous episode. It's not like it's not there. He needed to have that come to Jesus meeting.
Kind of, yes. Be put in the position of being helpless and still
then saved.
Yeah, and let to live. Because it to him, Adam being a bad guy, Adam could have killed him at any given point in time. We know, of course, that would have not happened by any means.
Right.
Adam even says he's very misguided. Like, as you said, he was rooting for Vice to get better. He didn't want to get caught, but he didn't want anything bad to happen to Vice. He certainly didn't want Michael to get hurt, not just because, one, that's his neighbor, more or less, in the colony, but also it was going to doom the Earth.
Right.
Everything Vice does to help the Earth inevitably dooms it further.
Yeah, especially when he killed Michael and Adam's just screaming at him, "Look what you've done. You may have just created the very situation you've been trying to avoid.
Dumbass!"
You said it, not me.
Fucking dumbass.
I think all of us as the audience that were along with the ride at that point were all screaming, "Dumbass, no!"
But I like Adam.
Yep.
Baldwin, I mean. Why? It's always him. I liked this. I really did. This is probably, I'm going to say, my second, maybe third favorite Emmerich project that he's done. I love his stuff. This is not ID4. ID4 was a popcorn movie. This is much more than that. This has a lot more thought to it and storytelling, like his older films, and I liked that. It had a lot more base in reality. Like I said, it's all quantum physics that they're talking about, the different new theoretical sciences. So I think had they gotten that back 9 or started to see what the elders were trying to do, I think string theory probably would have come up. And even then, at that point, that still would have been very ahead of its time.
Right.
Because string theory is this decade's new zombie trend.
Yeah, and if you watch The Flash, there's a nice little spaghetti. No, I'm kidding. You just said string theory, and it just popped into my head of like the Flash scene with Michael Keaton, but that's like a multiverse thing. So ignore me on that one. For some reason, I'm thinking of Batman and in the Flash movie all of a sudden. Thanks, Kevin.
Could be Crisis.
I blame you because you're wearing the Batman hoodie over there.
I'm sorry. It's my family crest between this and Ghostbusters.
Goddamn right, pal. Yeah, for me, this is one of my favorite things that Roland and Dean have put together. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Stargate. I love ID4. I total popcorn movie. Absolutely love it. Theater day one. I was in a crowd that was raucous and crazy. Loved it. And then this came out, and I've just been on board. And I like the work they've done. I mean, what else can you say? Like, this is a show to be absolutely proud of. I can see the care that they put into it and the direction they gave to it. It had a great theme song by David Arnold, and the score is fantastic. The cameos are wild and fun, and just acting's on point. The story's on point, and it's something absolutely everybody should check out. I wish this was on home video. I'd love to know who has the rights or if it's languishing in the Disney kind of Fox purgatory. I don't know. I would hope not. I mean, I would hope Centropolis, the studio that Dean and Roland have the rights to it. I don't know. Be very cool. Hey, guys are checking us out. Just saying, this would be a good one to throw out on DVD or something. Or if you can't, that sucks. Just wish Disney would get off their ass and let other people license shit out. Just saying. But I love this show. It's a favorite of mine. I'm so glad we got a chance to cover this one and give me a chance to rewatch it. Like I said, I'm going to link that in the description below if you want to check it out on YouTube. Giving you a heads up, the picture quality, it's a bit rough. It's a VHS rip, but it really only hurts during the dark scenes where you can't see much. Otherwise, it's tolerable. You can, the audio is fine. You'll be able to see what's going on enough to enjoy the show, and it's worth a watch. It really is worth a watch, and it's just too bad that this has been lost to time and people don't know about it, and I think more people should. So, Kevin, got any social media? Or I know I have a little.
I do. We got a comment from our buddy Skeets. I asked people what you remembered about this show. And again, this is Friday night on Fox, so not a whole lot of people remembered. Skeet said, I remembered it was not bad. I'd have to watch it again sometime. I don't really remember a whole lot of it. Do definitely give it another shot. Give it another viewing. This is very much worth your time. Like I said, it's not the Big Bang action movie or action type scenes that Independence Day was. It's more of the storytelling that you'd see in, say, like Stargate or even Making Contact. That was a fantastic story. This is a lot more that and a lot less Will Smith jokes.
Yeah. I could have been at a barbecue.
Somebody slap me. What do you got?
All right. I want to thank some of the Stargate groups on Facebook. I pilfered from them. I was very pleased to get a couple responses. Timothy E. David Arnold had the action movies locked down for a minute. Stargate, Independence Day, Godzilla, Deep Impact, and a number of James Bond films. That's just a sampling. Very recognizable sound that has certainly been imitated since for the modern plethora of MCU movies. Not that Alvin Silvestri had his own style before, but the way DA moved the drama along between action sequences set a standard. Thank you, Timothy. I like that comment. I'm a David Arnold guy. You Stargate fans, you'll recognize some cues in here. So when you watch the show. Then we got Marcus Fredrickson. I hope I said your name correctly. Remembered the show, but I never finished it. And he had a little sad emoji. I could believe that, some people, when they watch this show, that they never quite finished it for one reason or another. I don't know how much this got preempted. I don't remember it getting preempted too much.
I don't remember any marketing for this.
Yeah, marketing was kind of reserved for like the big shows. I mean, if they had a promo for this during X-Files during this time, I never saw it there. And I never saw it during like any sort of sports, if they're like any sort of baseball or anything. If there was, it was once in like the fourth inning and then forgotten about for baseball. So I don't know what they were doing with marketing. Fox has always had a problem with that. I don't know why, or if they just didn't, if there was a change in management and they just kind of backed out on it. Who knows? Christopher Curtis just simply says, loved it. And Catherine Welsh, I remember it, but not the details. I watched practically every sci-fi show. And then Eva Craig, I barely remember it. I liked it, but I don't really remember anything about it. And that's what I had for social media. So it sounds like some people did remember the show. They did enjoy it. They just don't remember either too much about it or they weren't able to finish it. And, that's just too bad. I'd love to see this show get a second life, even if it's just in like syndication somewhere.
It's worth the time. It's entertaining as hell. And it's surprising. Every episode is surprising.
Come on, Tubi TV. See what you can do. Get these rights. Put it up on there.
Something.
Or some channel on Pluto. I don't know. Somebody out there. Come on. You put up standard def on there before. Like, it doesn't have to be HD. Let's go.
Shout Factory put out a box set, maybe. Would be nice. I'd get that.
Yeah, come on, Shout. Get off your ass. Let's go. Then again, it'll come down to like who has the rights to this show for like home video, or if it's in a vault at the Disney Fox vortex of hell. I don't know.
Yeah, right. We'll let it out.
It's really hard to say. Kevin, you got anything else for us before we sign on out?
I got absolutely nothing. No. Other than, again, thank you. I like I said, I expected not to like this, and I was pissed that it ended the way it did. It was a quick binge. It was a fun binge.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad I liked it again too, because I didn't know how I would feel like years later watching this again for the first time since like 97. You're talking like 27 years it's been since I've seen this show, and I liked it just as much now as I did back then. And I always thought John Corbett was fantastic in this. Great show. Everybody should check it out. But thank you, everybody, for listening to Suns and Shadows cast covering The Visitor. If you like what you got here, check out our social media and our little outro. We'll see your asses next time. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Suns and Shadows Cast. We are at SunsAndShadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.